Hello, I'm Adria Dorsey Jackson, and I'm here to help you get your book out of your head and into your hand. So, editing is one of the most vital steps when it comes to publishing your book. But what I found as an editor is that a lot of aspiring authors, when they come to me and they say, I need an editor because they've just heard that they need an editor, they really don't know what they are looking for when they're saying that. So, today I really want to talk about the different types of editing, why I think every author should have at least some level of editing, and what might be the best option for your book. So again, I'm an editor. As an editor, editors don't even necessarily all use the same term. So I might be using some terms here when talking about editing and talking about what different types of editing exist, what different types of editors do. And another editor might use completely different terminology. However, this should give you an overall overview of what the different type of editing styles are and what the different type of editing needs are. So the first style of editing is what I call a developmental edit. Some others might call it a structural edit, but this is just big picture. We're looking at, does the overall book portray the message that you're trying to put out? Do the chapters flow well? Is the message being conveyed in the tone that you want to convey it in? A structural edit really is, does the manuscript meet reader expectation? Does it meet publishing standards? When we're looking at the overall book, is it doing both what you want it to do, and is it doing what your readers or your publishers, all of those external audiences, are going to expect? So then you have a line edit. Sometimes this can also be called a content edit. So a line edit, sometimes people mix up with a copy edit, which is looking more at grammar. A line edit really isn't looking at grammar so much. It's looking at tone. It's looking at style. It's looking at, if my tone of my book is supposed to be light and humorous, does this line align with the overall tone of the book? Am I saying something that's repetitive? Do I have this information in here way more times than what is necessary? If I'm looking at fiction, does this particular line right here match up with something that happened earlier? I'll talk about this in a later video, but sometimes I've had editing processes where, they've been calling someone one name or spelling a name a certain way and then start spelling it different later. Those types of things. Is there fluidity? Does everything flow and match up? Are there holes? So it's on a smaller scale than kind of the large scale developmental edit, but it's still looking at, does your book align with what you're trying to get it to do? But it's looking at it more on the sentence level. Third is a copy edit. So a copy edit, that's when you're really getting into the nitty gritty of the grammar, the punctuation, the syntax, is everything right? Is this accurate in the way that you're using the language here? And a lot of times this is when people come to me and they say, hey, I need an editor. They're really just thinking about that. They're really just thinking kind of what like a Grammarly would do on a more professional scale. When a lot of times what you need is beyond just a copy edit, especially as a first-time author. You're usually going to need more than just somebody to look through and say, okay, your periods are in the right place, etc. The last type of editing is a proofread. Proofread, similar to a copy edit, but a lot of times a proofread is like the final polish after the copy edit is complete. So we've already gone through the language. We've already gone through Does the tone align? We've already gone through, is the structure great? And this a lot of times will happen after your book is already in layout, because sometimes when the book is getting formatted and laid out and all of those things, errors can be introduced. So to be able to make sure that you're putting a product out into the world that doesn't have a bunch of errors in it, a proofread is really that last stage edit before publishing. So you don't necessarily need a different editor for each stage. A lot of times the same editor will handle different phases of the process. For instance, with me, when I'm working on an editing project, I tend to focus more on either structural edits or line edits, and then I work with another editor on my team to do a proofread or a copy edit. So you don't necessarily need 4 editors for your project. Usually you can use 1 or 2 editors depending on what your goals are for your project. Now, if you have a budget and you're writing a business book, you're writing something that you are looking at it as an investment that's going to bring business in. This might be people's first introduction to you and you're a thought leader. Then I would suggest investing in getting a complete edit, which is what I consider structural, a line edit, a copy edit, proofread. Just get the whole edit so that you have a really polished project. If you're on a tight budget, what I would suggest at the very least is a line edit. Again, if you are, and I've talked about this in prior videos, you have to make these decisions based on what your goals are. If this is just a passion project for you, you could use a tool like a Grammarly, or at the very least, if you have a friend that's an English teacher, somebody that will be willing to look at your book, because I do always recommend getting a real set of eyes. But again, if this is something that is supposed to make you money, then you'll probably want to invest in it in a different way, because you want to make sure that if I'm just coming to you for the first time, and this is the first time that I'm reading your book, and you want me to maybe potentially invest thousands of dollars into your mastermind program, that I'm not seeing a bunch of errors in your book, because that's going to make me feel like, okay, well, if they can't do this part well, then how can I trust them with my stuff? So I think that, again, let your goals guide your decision where it comes to investing in editing. There are some cheaper tools now, like AutoCrit. If you can't invest in an editor that can help to get you along the way. Also on my website, I have a breakdown of kind of the different costs of editing. The Editorial Freelancers Association is a really good tool for that as well. So I'll put all the links down below. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will be happy to hear from you, be happy to answer them, and I'll talk to you again soon.